I'm just a simple man trying to make his way in the galaxy. Hello my friends and welcome back to Player Display. Speak of the devil, I just completed my Clone Commander Bly review yesterday, and at the end during the bloopers and bullcrap reel that occurs at the end of the video, as I've come to call it, I complained that my JANGO FETT from SH Figuarts was kind of trapped in postal limbo. I didn't know where it was or when I'd get it. Then the very next day I opened my mailbox and lo and behold, here he is, and he is so pretty. I can't wait to open him. Now, I should mention beforehand that this is not brand new in packaging, even though this is an unboxing. This is actually a used figure, so it might be a little off from how he would otherwise be if you took him out of the box. And before we do that, I just really want to quickly discuss the history of how difficult it is to obtain JANGO FETT, period, when it comes to toys. Feel free to skip past this portion if you don't want, like, any trivia. I don't know what it is, but anytime you get a definitive, really awesome version of JANGO FETT, he becomes extremely hard to find. Before I started collecting action figures in elementary school, I was after Legos, of course. That was kind of my foot in the door to bigger and better things. And of course, the only JANGO FETT that was around at the time came with his Slave 1 from Attack of the Clones. And he only showed up that one time. For like a good decade, that figure was nigh impossible to get. Then, of course, I grew up, and then Star Wars The Black Series started, and they made JANGO FETT there, and then that figure was also very hard to get, and that was also within the custody of the scalpers. And then the figure was re-released as a GameStop Gaming Greats, and, well, why don't you fill in the blank here? Yup, the scalpers got a hold of that one too. And then SH Figuarts is SH Figuarts. It's always expensive and difficult to get. But now, I am a man, I have a job, and I have money, and it was also Chinese New Year, so I got some money from the relatives and stuff. Thanks, Uncle Y. I was able to finally, after all these years, get a JANGO FETT to add to my collection, and he looks absolutely stunning. I can't wait to get him out. So before I very eagerly bust this thing open, let's just have a look at the packaging, because we're probably not going to see a whole lot of SH Figuarts figures on this channel because I primarily work with Black Series. As you can see here, you got the figure very nicely displayed in a plastic window. You have Star Wars, SH Figuarts, and a very nice gold font. You got JANGO FETT, along with a lot of Japanese characters, which you're going to see throughout this packaging. And then down here, of course, you got Bandai, and then you have, I don't know what this thing is, I guess we'll just call it
The Grinch's Small Heart.
On the side, you have a fine portrait of the figure, and then on this side, you kind of get this really bright, shiny chrome silver. On the back, you got some more promo shots of JANGO FETT, along with some shots from the actual movie. And then you also have a good look at his accessories as well. Down here, yeah, I can't help you. Sorry about that. On the bottom, more numbers and words I can't read, and no sad onions, which makes me even more sad. It's a sad irony. I need a sad onion in order to be happy. Does that make me a bad person? Does that make me not able to love people? Like I feel so bad. Like I need a sad onion in order to find any semblance of joy in my toys. That's okay, we'll be fine right here. So I think it is already cut open, not from here, from, there we are. So that's a cut tape. Let's pop that open to the side. I don't know what's going to happen with this box. It's still a little bit beat up, so I might chuck it, might keep it, don't know. There we are. We got JANGO FETT released. Here's a figure in a plastic bubble, and it's kind of got two layers to keep all the pieces in place, and it looks like everything is included. So let's go ahead and pop this open. Oh, it's so pretty! And immediately one of his blasters fell out, which is a good sign. That means it is very collector-friendly if you'd like to put him back in. Obviously, he was put back in. And here is the figure. Before we do that, let's just get all the accessories out of here as well. Got a hand. Okay, yeah, alright, sure. Let's just go ahead and dump everything out. Why not? Okay, now that he's out, let me kind of organize everything and be sure I know what this figure is all about before I actually start running my mouth about him. So let me have a little bit of playtime, and then we'll talk about our new friend here. Alright, so I just had some one-on-one time with this JANGO FETT here, and oh, damn, I think I'm in love. This is a very rare occasion for me where I just got a straight figure from a Japanese importer, and it does not disappoint. I really like it. It does have a few flukes. It is a 6-year-old figure, which I neglected to mention, but overall it is solid and beyond solid. I really like this figure. So let's just hop right into it. Let's start off at the helmet, and it is very apparent that they got the colors exactly right to the movie. It just looks absolutely beautiful. There's a very nice silver, not quite chrome sheen, which is appropriate. And then you also have two very nice shades of blue. You got a little bit lighter on the upper part, and then in the recesses it gets a little bit darker, kind of like the midnight blue that we saw with the Mandalorian Death Watch. Mandalorian, yeah. Also got a very nice gloss going on the visor, which is very important for helmets. I cannot stress that enough. Otherwise, it really sucks out that illusion. That gloss, I don't know, it just really makes a difference between plaything and, well, yeah, this is the guy, you know? Going around to the side, you get the trademark rangefinder, which I feel like is a little bit short, but it is articulated, and it goes down to the visor just fine. It looks nice. Might even be a little bit crooked. I feel like that could be straighter. Again, when I do that hot water tutorial, we'll go ahead and maybe we'll pop this head in there too, because we know Jango Fett has no problem losing its head, right? So, anyway, a little dark humor. On the back, we get that usual T-shape that we see with the clones and on Mandalorians, looking very nice. We also get that good vented pattern. And just articulating it, you see a little bit of a flesh neck, which I really like, but unfortunately he does not come with an alternate head sculpt for Tamora Morrison, which I would have really appreciated. I'm going to keep my eyes on eBay and hopefully get a third-party head sculpt to drop on there. I'm definitely not good at painting faces, so hopefully it would be already done, made to order and all of that. There's actually a few things I'd like to do this figure. Maybe give him a wash on the undercoat, give him a poncho as some of the 2000s merch had him with, and if I go ahead and there's enough mods I'm doing to this figure, then maybe I'll devote a video to that. Just have a Jango Fett quality of life tutorial, so to speak. Going down, you get the very classic Mandalorian 101 armor, which has that nice segmented pattern. Those two little, I think they're supposed to be lights over there. I don't know if they're meant to glow red on him. I know they do on Boba, but maybe that's something I'll paint in there. And then you've got a nice black underglove, which is a black? It is black. Interesting. I'm going to have to refer to some shots from the movie, but I feel like that should have that same blue color that we get on the rest of the body glove. On the shoulders, you get more of that armor, and then it continues around to the back, and I apparently learned that this armor is not Beskar as per the Mandalorian way. This is actually made of Durasteel. And it was also confirmed in the Clone Wars show that Jango Fett is not an actual Mandalorian. It is a mystery as to how he actually obtained this armor. It's pretty much my headcanon at this point is that Jango Fett saved up enough credits to fabricate his own copy of Mandalorian armor just to make his presence more intimidating to his bounties. And that theory kind of really adds to the mysticism behind this figure. I'd go ahead and claim that Jango Fett is more mysterious than Boba Fett, just because in canon and in Legends we don't know a whole lot about him. And he's also a really interesting character because he was kind of a precursor to everything that happened afterwards. Of course, he's the template for all the clones, and then he died before the clones were actually put into action. So he's kind of a bonus character within the Star Wars mythos. And that being said, he is one of the most important Star Wars characters ever. And down to the arms, you get a continuation of that blue body glove done in a very nice, dull blue. I like how it's not too saturated, helps it to contrast with the helmet a little bit more. It gives it a feeling that it's made of a different material. It's cloth, it's not an armor piece. The gauntlets are also very well done and also very familiar, very much like Boba Fett. On this one, I guess we could start. We have the concussion rifle, I believe that is supposed to be, and then you have a flamethrower, or perhaps it's a blaster. Again, you never know with each Mandalorian, well, in this case, false Mandalorian that we see. And then over here on this one, it's not as much to look at, but it is actually the more important of the two, and we will talk about that later when we get to accessories. But as you can see, I think with both arms, yes, we have these nice, very well done tubes, which has kind of been a hit or miss when it comes to the action figures of Mandalorian armor. But in this case, it's made of a very malleable rubbery plastic, so you can move the arm any which way you want. and it doesn't ever feel like it's going to just snap off. And that's on behalf of a nice bicep swivel that we have over there. So that makes him one of the more dexterous Mando armored figures that I have ever seen personally. Down here we got those trademark pouches along with his holsters that kind of string up to the belt. I noticed that the belt is actually a floating piece just now, and it looks like it's meant to connect up there. Then again, maybe not. There's kind of a silver hitch that I suppose is meant to hold up that holster system, so that's kind of cool. The holsters don't really continue on to the back, but we do get a better look at the continuation of that blue body glove going all the way down. We also have more of that Durasteel armor underneath the holsters, and then we also have those classic Mandalorian knee pads, which look really good. Also got some nice shin guards over here. I also forgot to mention that throughout this figure, all the silver has a very nice and very subtle wash that indicates that he's a bounty hunter that likes to keep himself clean, but it still shows its age. And he also has some nice little shoes underneath with some little silver accents that are kind of along the sole, so that's pretty nice. And that's it for the base figure, but the journey does not end there because he has a trillion accessories, so I guess we'll keep it simple and start with the hands, which are very, very, very tiny, and I don't know why. Not only are they small, but I'm surprised that there's no type of armor or knuckle guard or anything like that, but again, that's probably just accurate to the movie. You have two nice fists, which are really good. And now let's just focus on one hand as we go ahead and look at all his various other types of hands. I guess we'll first show off this open hand right here, and this will be the one time where I will demonstrate how to remove the hands. If you're familiar with SH Figuarts, it's a simple little ball peg. The hands are kind of made of a very soft rubber plastic, kind of like the tubes on the arm guards, and all you have to do is just swap out the hand and pop it right on. No effort at all. Really easy. So now you could be reaching out for something, putting his hand on his son's shoulder, saying, "It'll be all right. I probably will survive the day, but maybe not." All right, you know what? Let's just look at all the pairs together. So there are 8 hands, meaning 4 pairs total. So you have 2 fists, we got 2 open, we got 2 pointing, and then we got 2 blaster grip. But I feel like these could both hold the blasters, so let's move on to the blasters and have a look at which ones work best. Okay, so here I have Jango again with 1 pointing hand and 1 gripping hand, so we're going to bring in the blasters and see what is best. So first, let's have a look at them. They're both exactly the same, so let's just have an eyeball at one of them for now. And they are very well sculpted. They're not warped or anything. And I just noticed that at the very tip of the blaster, there is a little bit of yellow to simulate a blast effect. That's a nice touch. The sculpt work is done so nicely. I kind of wish that not only would this be a die-cast metal, but perhaps there was a blast effect coming out. You know, you could get that that everybody knows and loves. But let's take one of these blasters and see which hand it fits in best. So here's a pointed hand, and yeah, that fits in just fine, although it feels a little bit weird with, It feels a little bit weird with that finger pointing out and not really going into the trigger, so my money is on this one being the more definitive fit. So let's give that a shot. Yeah, I feel like it takes a little bit more effort, but it looks like the non-pointing hand is the better blaster holding hand. So let's get both of them orientated so they're the same. Oh yeah. There we go, that's what you want to see. Looks much better. So now I've swapped out the blaster hands with his more open hands because I wanted to talk about something that SH Figuarts does that's kind of a trademark of theirs that some people love and some people hate, but I really quite like it. So of course when you have the blaster, you get it in the hand, and it looks all well and good, but the nice thing is once you put it in, you never have to take it out again. So why do I say that? It is because SH Figuarts is kind enough to give us these alternate shorter blasters which can be stored in the holsters, and that solves a number of problems. First of all, you no longer need to keep removing the blaster so that way you could put it in the holster, and secondly, now that we have this extra piece, it is very specifically designed to peg right in the holster, just like so, and a third reason is now the holster is going to warp if you put the blaster in too clumsily. So I actually really like that option. I think that's really nice. So now we can get him idle, maybe ready to do a quick draw like in a Western. He looks pretty good. I like him a lot. Next, we have a very vital accessory, which was pretty much the doom of him, and that was, of course, his jetpack, which is painted immaculately, just like the rest of this figure. And it's got very nice tones of blue, continues with that silver, pretty much what you would expect, but it's still very pretty to look at. Unfortunately, down, if you look at the thrusters, there is no jet effect, which would have been really nice. Yeah, you could sort of see there's no sort of peg hole or anything where you could put in a fire effect or anything to look like he's flying in the air. But still, it pegs onto his back just fine. You get a single peg, which is actually keyed, so it's not going to swivel around or anything, which I definitely prefer over Black Series' method of having 3 pegs, 1, 2, then 3. And then, I don't know, it just felt a little bit awkward. But in this case, you just put in that one hole with the key, and it locks in just fine. No longer going to be a swivel or anything. It stays in great, and it's not shaken off either. But wait, there's more. We actually have 2 grappling hook pieces right here. So let's have a look at one at a time, I suppose. First, we have one that actually extends out of his gauntlet. Now, I'm not sure if this is meant to be a grappling hook or the saber dart that he used to kill Zam Wesell as she cursed him out in her changeling language or whatever. But it's as simple as pegging it into a hole that's on the side of the gauntlet on the right. So I've never done this before, but yeah, it pegs in just fine, and it looks really good. So yeah, I think this is meant to be his grappling hook that kind of launches out and then loops around Obi-Wan, grabs someone's weapon. It just looks really good. And I'm not too sure why you need it, but you have this extra second grappling hook right here without the wire coming out of it, and it's very, very tiny. It's exactly the same mold as the one that comes on the cord. I don't know exactly what you do with it in relation to this figure, but if this were the saber dart, then I could see maybe Obi-Wan bringing this to Dexter Jetster and then asking him about it, because some guy who runs a diner is a very valuable source of information for whatever reason. And lastly, this is the accessory that made me the most excited about this figure and pushed me from getting the Black Series and getting this guy instead. This is the one that basically tipped me over the fence. It is his wrist blade. I don't know why. I am such a sucker for any type of wrist blade. Of course, he never used this as a weapon in the movie, unfortunately. He actually used this as a tool to prevent him from sliding off the Kaminoan platforms in Attack of the Clones. And this goes onto his arm just fine. So let's go ahead and give this a test. So basically you have to remove these wires, which, well, it looks like they popped out on their own already. And it is this piece that needs to be removed. So we gotta slot out those wires right there. No issue. Pop out. Oh, well, we can lose a hand too, I guess. We should be able to pop out that component. Why is it not moving? Okay, I got it out. I actually heard a distinct click when it came out, so I think there might have been a little bit of paint that was kind of adhering, so now we should no longer have an issue taking this out. I think maybe the original owner of this figure just never took it out, so after 6 years, naturally, it was a little bit too cozy in there, but now we got this nice, obvious slit going on where we can peg in the wrist blade. So even though this is an alternate piece, you still have one hole here for the grappling hook, and then you got the 2 holes here for the wires that are on the back of the elbow. There we go. Okay, eventually you find a sweet spot, and then it looks really cool. I like that a lot. It reminds me a lot of the Old Republic game, which I keep mentioning. I just love secret weapons like this. And there we are now with one of his fisted hands back on, and it looks really stunning. Definitely sets him apart from all the other bounty hunters in their arsenal, because I don't think we've ever seen another bounty hunter with this type of weapon before. Unfortunately, if you do want to use this as kind of a weapon, which he doesn't do in the movie like I kind of want to do, there isn't really a swivel over the gauntlet that allows him to kind of angle this out towards anyone, but it's still really cool regardless. I'll probably display him with that just because it's so different. I got him more vanilla so we can check out some of his articulation. As for the very temporary head, we have this much down. Of course, it hits the armor, so that's pretty much as far as it can go. There's a little bit of a shift, so it looks like there's 2 joints going on in the neck, which is really nice. It goes that much up, and if you line that up, it does a pretty okay job if he's going straight forward, but I more picture him kind of looking down at Obi-Wan, and he's holding the blaster right now, but then he's kind of coming down onto him. I went ahead and grabbed a McFarlane DC Multiverse figure stand to get him up in the air, and this is pretty much how I envision how I'll be posing him on my shelf, more kind of targeting somebody below, as opposed to rocketeering through the air. And he also has a good amount of tilt, not a whole ton, but again, it's kind of accurate with the armor, so it makes perfect sense. He just dropped a blaster. So we get down to the torso where we have one of the main gripes people tend to have with this figure, which I, so far, am actually having not much of a problem with. I'm totally fine with it. But basically, you have a ball joint that allows you to swivel, tilt forward a good amount, back considerably, and then a little bit of side to side, which is really good. And the interesting thing about this joint is it's kind of a drop down. So you can push it down, he's a little bit more stable, and he just kind of swivels. And he still does all the tilting work that you want, but you can also pop it up a little bit, and then after that he gets a little bit wobbly, but he gets a lot more dexterous, so you kind of need to choose whether you want him to be very loose, but also very posable, or if you want to just clamp down that joint and it kind of locks into place a little better. Up to the shoulders, you see a very obvious joint up here at the shoulder pad that kind of flips up, then flips back down. And then also the arms can do a full 360, which is also very beautiful to see. They don't go out 90. Good bicep swivel. We got a double joint at the elbows that comes up to well past 90. Always nice to see. No swivel at the gauntlet, which I would have appreciated, but it's not the worst deal. For those of you who know SH Figuarts, the wrists get a little bit different because if I'm to take this hand off, you see it's kind of a ball with a hinge, kind of need to rotate it a bit. So in the case of this blaster, we'll have it go up and down. And now I rotated the joint, it can go a little bit up and not so much down because of this particular gauntlet. So obviously it's going to stop it a little bit, but not too much. The legs also have a drop down mechanism. So as you can see, it pops out there and it looks very obviously a gape. Goes forward, pretty great. Goes back, also very good. You can see that drop down is kind of compensating for that motion that we're doing. It also kicks out that way really well. On the knees, they are double jointed and they go very far back. As for the ankles, you got a little bit of rocker, not a ton. It feels a little bit primitive, but it works. Not much back and not much forward. But again, he's probably going to be airborne anyways, so I'm not bugged by that at all. Moving on to size comparisons, of course, we first have to start him off beside his son. This is the Star Wars The Black Series Deluxe Return of the Jedi Boba Fett. And finally, we can give them the reunion that they probably deserve.
This is my boy!
And since Jango Fett is arguably the most successful father in all of Star Wars, we have him next to a few of his children. We have the Bad Batch version of Captain Rex, along with Omega. Then we have Bly, who we just had a look at, and also Boss from Republic Commando right here. And since Omega was born at the same time as Boba Fett, I almost have this theory that perhaps Omega was the very first clone produced, that maybe Jango wanted a son, so perhaps she was a rejected kid, and then they made Boba Fett, and then he became his heir to the Fett throne. What do you think? You think that fan theory checks out? Maybe. Now to put him beside some lightsaber wielders, we have the man who did him in, Mace Windu, and we also have his boss, Count Dooku, which are both very excellent figures.
Brave but foolish.
And to compare him beside some other lines, we have my custom Marvel Legends Spider-Man with a swapped head. We also have NECA's Jungle Hunter Predator, and Migo's Silver Screen edition of Nosferatu. And then lastly, here's Jango beside Muck for a little person comparison, because of course, Muck
Holds fire in his hand. Or is that a cheetah?
And that just about covers Bandai's SH Figuarts Jango Fett, and even though this is a dated figure, I absolutely love it. I couldn't recommend it more. Complaints that some people have about this figure, like, for example, the shoulder joints, that little weird joint that's going on in the torso, for example, that people don't like as much, I'm actually okay with. It's kind of a preference case, but ultimately, he is a fine figure. He looks really good, he functions very well, and also Jango Fett's just really hard to come by, so I was very lucky to get a hand on him. Fortunately, I managed to find one that was for stock price and used, so I got really lucky there, and I'm not seeing anything here that would indicate that the original owner was rough with him at all. As we saw with the gauntlet, when I removed that piece, it was still pretty stuck in there, which was a good indicator that he wasn't handled around too frivolously when he was originally owned. So if you enjoy the content that's coming out on this channel, I have a lot more Star Wars and Marvel and NECA figures planned for me to review, so if you'd like to see those coming up, then please be sure to
like,
comment,
and subscribe.
Or I will inject a dose of hallucinogens so you may finally see things from our point of view. Quite retro, isn't it? And that's going to be about it for this review. I really hope you enjoyed. If you have any other suggestions for more figures I should do in the future, or other lines, or other IPs, then please feel free to let me know in the comments. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy this upcoming weekend, and I will see you all later. And everything is silver on this armor, so I don't have to complain about silver apps, do I? Throughout all the many bounties that he's collected. Flush in the toilet again, really? Okay, here we are 5 minutes later of flushing, and now we can get back to the boots, finally. Now, there is a very basic joint within the torso, which is one of the gripes people have at this figure, although I'm honestly so far... Man... You're flushing your toilet again! I just love Republic Commando just for that end credits song that we got. Clones, 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 clones. Oh, shit.